Actually, I had to shave off 40 seconds there because I only got 15 minutes to do this. This was something last minute. And I want to thank everybody for coming and joining me for this little last minute show. But it's something that I felt like I had to do because I'm going to be doing some important projects between now and Friday. And I won't really have this time to sit there and talk to you guys generally until Friday. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing some more gameplay of the game that this is pretty much connected to, which is Starfield. And then tomorrow is GeForce Now Thursday. So, of course, I'm going to be focusing on that. And then Friday is going to be NRO podcast. Also, the reason why I'm leaving now is because we have a last minute meeting with a client and I got to go talk to them. So my business partner is going to be here in about 15 minutes or so, and we're going to meet with them, discuss some concerns that they had. So I definitely don't want to be late to that. But I've been spending most of the day, doing my normal errands and stuff, and then playing some Starfield. I played a lot of Starfield today. And because I said, once I get to the 30-hour mark, and I'm going to go through the missions. I'm not going to, spend the remainder of this time to when I get to the 30-hour mark. I'm not going to spend it just trying to travel and adventure. You know what I'm saying? I want it to be the most meaningful and impactful. I guess I would say the 6 hours when I said this, 6 hours possible. So I'm going to be doing the missions. Like I have a couple of side missions that are to be integral to the game that I'm doing. And I finished one of those today, but I'm going to be doing the mission. So I got a pretty much good idea of what this game is and what it isn't. And what it provides as far as what I'm looking for in the title, my expectations, all that stuff. I'm going to cover all that here tomorrow Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. Unless something crazy happens, which it shouldn't. 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be here talking about really my static review, my static thoughts of what the game is at the very least, because there's been so much smoke and mirrors about this title. So many people on both ends of the spectrum with so many agendas, perspectives out there that are not suited for you. They're not aimed to help you find where you need to be divulging your time. Because honestly, I'm almost 30 hours in. And if you're a gamer like me with the particular taste that I have, you know what I'm saying? With people telling you, oh, no, this is a fabulous title. But you got to put the 2-3 dozen hours into it or whatever. That may not be the case for you. It may be the case for you. All that's subjective. But we've gotten to a point to where subjectivity is now being cascaded as objectivity. And I'm really pulling the scab off of this conversation Friday, but I'm gonna start pulling the scab off of this today in lieu of the things that I've been seeing in the last few days. That's so anti-gamer. So anti-gamer. Gaming has so many demographics, so many lenses, so many points of view that come barreling down on it, that when you try to approach this objectively in regards to your subjective litmuses, you disregard everybody else's subjective litmus. And then you start creating these superficial standards that don't really help anybody. They don't help you continue to get what you want, because if you push your subjectivity and put that out there in the ethos in the internet, and people are like, yeah, okay, well, this is what they think about my game. This is great, but nobody's buying it. You're lost in this. Well, how come nobody's buying it? Every time I go to Twitter, they're saying this, that, and because people don't like the game. And what has happened is there's been this atmosphere of different things being said out there that if you don't like the game, don't say anything, because we got to have the propaganda machine boost this game up. Or it works in reverse. Oh, this game sucks, it's horrible, or whatever. You can't say anything good about this game, and people actually like it. So, the developers go back to the drawing board to say, oh man, this is, and then they start pulling up numbers like, hold on, why are people saying this on Twitter? Because Twitter is gauged. Twitter is a powerful tool. It's a powerful marketing tool. You have to know how to slither through the cesspool of agenda holding that there is in Twitter, but it's a powerful tool to gauge engagement. So why is everybody saying this out there in the ethos? Oh, but now they're buying the game. We're good. Look, there are some games that are just going to be polarizing, and that's okay. All right? Your fragile ego about people liking the same thing that you like, or people trying to gatekeep the same thing that you're trying to keep out, your fragile ego in that regards serves no purpose if you try to blanketly make your subjectivity the standard in gaming. Gaming has never been about that. I've been a gamer for longer than most of you have been alive on this planet. 35 plus years. It's never been about that. It's, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And then that collective forward creates a collage. And then developers and publishers and whoever use that collage to determine if they reach their goals or not, or if they should move forward with replicating this or whatever. Or maybe the general consensus isn't that great about this game, but do we have like a niche but supplemental audience that demographic that maybe we need to scale future iterations to? Do we probably need to change the scope of it, because we originally created this to reach this broad of an umbrella? Maybe the umbrella is a little bit tighter, but we definitely, per activity and per these comments from this particular demographic, we have the data that we need to move forward. And we definitely, maybe we don't have something at bigger scope that we thought it was, but we definitely have enough to move forward with a different iteration. We just got to change the scope and the focus of who we advertise to. You don't help anybody by sitting there blasting across the internet. Oh, this game has to be great. This game has to be great. This game has to be great. Oh, it's fantastic. No. Anybody that's saying other, they're just trolling. Just you just watch the activity. That's playing a game of deceit with publishers and developers, getting their hopes up, and then when the ball finally lands, when the smoke and mirrors are gone, they're just sitting there like a deer in headlights. Well, what happened? There's all this positivity about this, and nobody bought it. Because it was a farce. You cannot objectively dismiss, you cannot take your subjectivity to objectively dismiss the consensus. The consensus is important. It's one thing if it's Metacritic. I agree. Metacritic at times, people have agendas, reviewers have agendas, or there's things that they're trying to push or messages they're trying to send. I get that. But when you have a gamer consensus, that consensus matters. You know what? The game isn't horrible. It isn't awful. But maybe the scope that you tried to reach was too broad. Maybe if you dialed it back a little bit to the scope of like what Fallout 3 was trying to reach, because Fallout 3 knew that they had a specific type of gamer that liked this type of stuff, that was enthralled by this type of stuff. Maybe the new car smell or the charm of this type of gameplay has worn off on the general populace. But if you market this right, put the right resources in it, tweak here and there, you do have something that where you can still expand and make it bigger and better. But as long as your focus is accurate, there's not all this blowback. That's what keeping things in the right perspective does. And you get that right perspective by looking at the general populace, not by trying to paint with a broad brush or rubber stamp your subjective sentiments across the gaming populace. You are not a gamer if you do that. I'm sorry. I don't care how many games that you play. If you were that fragile in your own artificial and superficial confidence of your own likes and dislikes, like I'm the guy. Now I can sit here and get on a soapbox and say, I'm the guy. I played Bethesda games before any of you knew what they were. I played Fallout before many of you were born. And a lot of that would be true. Like I think Obsidian, before they became Obsidian, they made the original Fallout. It was a top-down isometric game that I played on PC with my brother way back in the day. I think it was like 98, 99 or something like that. Then Bethesda bought them, and then they turned it into what it is, you know, what we know Fallout is now, which really is the inspiration of Starfield. So I can sit there on my soapbox and say, yeah, because of that, you know, and I'm the guy that went out there and defended Fallout 76, which I did. I said Fallout 76 is getting piled on unfairly, not because people played the game and just said this sucks, but the overwhelming majority of people that piled on the game did not touch it. And that again is working against the general populace of the gamers. Giving developers an accurate description of what's going on. Hold on one second. This might be my business partner. I have no idea who this is. Hold on. We're going to screen that call. Talented telemarketers. But yeah, that was working against the objective consensus. A consensus is objective, meaning it is what it is. When I say 100 out of 200 people felt like that this steak sandwich was nasty and dry, that's a fact. 100 out of the 250% felt like that the steak sandwich is dry. If I take one of those people out and say, this is the best steak sandwich ever, and then say, oh, the people that eat this steak sandwich generally think what this guy thinks. That's subjective. His thoughts are subjective. But when I collectively put the people together, that's what the general consensus thinks. It doesn't make any of them wrong. He's entitled to his subjective thoughts. The data is the data. Stop trying to brute force the data in your subjective agenda written favor. Now, what am I talking about here? Well, I've been busy as of late. As you guys know, I got too many damn businesses that I'm running. And I got a bunch of stuff that I'm doing. And like I said, I got this trouble client all of a sudden that we've been trying to work with. They're taking up my time today. So what I've done today is I said the spare time that I do have is I'm going to focus on hitting that 30-hour mark. I'm like maybe an hour and a half away. I'll get there tomorrow. I was even supposed to stream Cyberpunk 2077, but that got disrupted because now I got this meeting with this client. So for good, I put in an additional 3 hours into Starfield. I'm uploading it now. You guys will probably see it tomorrow morning on my MM2K gaming channel on YouTube. Definitely check that out. It's very high quality. I'm doing this side mission and I'm doing another part of the mission, and you'll get to see that tomorrow, right? It's about 2.5, 3 hours, right? But I've been catching up in between. And so I've been watching podcasters talk about this newfound farce that Steam reviews of the game or the games on Steam are being review bombed. And then this bullpucky notion that it's purely based off of the performance of the game. then then there's this thing of that I saw from a major content creator, someone I've had passings with in the past. I'm not going to name their name. They're getting enough flack as they should, and I for their dismissive. I hate dismissiveness towards other gamers. Like, I know how I feel about Xbox, but I don't sit there and tell other people you shouldn't like Xbox. The most I go to was, look, how can there are these things that you were expecting from Xbox, and don't get mad at me because I'm calling these things out. These are things that I've heard you say. Per se, I heard you say that you were excited to come down the pike. For Xbox all of a sudden yank the cord with no sufficient excuse and not do it. And my argument is this is an unwanted and unnecessary trend from Xbox to keep doing the rope-a-dope, pulling the wool over people's eyes, and they need to be held accountable. That's pretty much the gist of my argument and my woes and my loathing towards Xbox. So at worst, I'll say you guys get mad at me for calling on Xbox, but meanwhile, they keep playing this emotional roller coaster with you about things that you heavily want, and you don't call them out because you rather rag more on the ponies or whatever that silliness is. I'm looking for good games. I don't play this console war crap. I'm looking for good games. Most of my gaming is done on PC-based gaming via NVIDIA GeForce Now. I don't play these games. I give kudos to PlayStation for the things that I like, and I think they're the best in the game right now. But they're not perfect. They get called out. They've gotten so egregious in a lot of their actions. We had a show dedicated to them because we were like, oh man, they're really doing their thing. They're really holding the flag for AAA genre defining gaming, and here they just do a whole bunch of arrogant, like, unsettling stuff as far as fanfare is concerned. We canceled the show. So it's not like we feel PlayStation is perfect. But my thing is like, what is your response on these things where they're falling short of? Let's not make excuses, because I can show you a whole litany of trends in the same regard over the past 10 decades with this regime. That's the worst I may say. I do not laud anybody for liking Xbox. That is your subjective right to like whatever you want, regardless of what the general consensus is. You don't have to fall in line with the general consensus for your own subjective needs and wants. But don't in reverse try to take your own subjective needs and wants and then cascade them to the general public. It don't work either way. What am I talking about? Let me show you guys something. All right. So one of the things that are going on that really sparked this is, again, major content creator gave the illusion that that the reviews for Starfield on Steam are being review bombed, right? Hold on one second. Hold on. Okay, all right, sorry about that. So they tried to give the illusion that Steam is being review bombed. And the reason why this is a problem is twofold. Number one, in the response, and I'm paraphrasing here, they say, we know this game is great. Huh? We know this game is great? How do we know this game is great? Like, what is great? like, for instance, when it comes to anything subjective, like whether somebody likes something, a product or service or anything, that's all subjective. Let's use food as an example. I know this chef is a world-renowned 5-star chef. That is objective. Why is that objective? Because it's telling you what the consensus of food goers or people that review food say about said chef. But if I said, oh yeah, anything that this chef puts out there is great, it's fantastic. We know it. We know it because he used these ingredients and everybody's going to lie. It's just generally great. Anyone that doesn't feel like it's great, whether they taste it or not, they got a problem. That again is trying to make this some type of monolithic approach, some conveyor belt approach, which gaming is not. Gaming grows vertically and it grows horizontally. So you can have all types of diverse thoughts or whatever when it comes to even indie games. My thoughts on AAA genre defining games doesn't make indie games or retro style games any less important. So what makes a game great? Is it simply because people look good and the NPCs look good in the game, because there was a bunch of money spent on the game, because it was better than a previous game, your favorite game producer? What makes a game great? Guaranteed. Because if games were just generally great, guaranteed, then why is there a Metacritic or a litmus or a review system altogether? Like, why do we need congregate scores? Why, if it's so objective, why not just have a handful of people go out there, be the tell-all be-alls about the quality of something, and we roll with that? Why don't we do that? It doesn't work like that. So what gamers have done is they put out their subjective viewpoints, right, on Steam, where Steam's system. And I don't have the Verge articles from March 5th, 2019, where they tell you Steam has said that they revamped their system to where A, you've had to buy the game and played it for X amount of hours, I believe. And B, if you refund the game, your score is taken away from the aggregate score. So Steam is the gold standard of reviews when you're looking at that demographic that's playing the game. So if people on Steam are saying that a game is falling within a certain litmus, then you and you have tens of thousands of players rating the game, then it's pretty fair to say that that's a great sample case of how that game is going to hold with the general populace. For things far more important, like politics and how to vote, they use a lot smaller sample pool. They use a sample pool of 1,000 for a lot more important things to come to see how people are what the consensus is of things. So if you got a sample pool of like 70,000 people, let me show you. Like Starfield right now is still in the top 10, which is great. It's fantastic. It's surrounded by games like Grand Theft Auto, Rust, Dota 2, Baldur's Gate 3, and Cyberpunk. After the Phantom Liberty, still in the top 10. Let's go check this out. Right now, 71.4% have positive reviews for the game. And that's out of 91,000, out of total 91,000 reviews, 66,000 of them are positive, and based upon Steam's rating system, that's a positive score. Now, once things start getting below 70, then that's when you might start seeing, I think it's like, it's neutral or whatever. But the general consensus is 71% of the populace give the score a positive review. Okay. So, again, because Steam is the gold standard of getting a consensus, we have a sample pool of almost 100,000 people and, to be quite honest with you, Starfield on the Xbox store, 3.5 out of 5 stars. That's like a 70% as well. The day match, you got to have the game or have access to the game on Xbox in order to leave a review. Now, Xbox may not be as scientifically clad as Steam, but it's still around the same. I mean, all you got to do is get Xbox. You still got to spend money. A lot of people that do review bombs, they are not spending a dime in large droves to give the game a bad score. There's also this false narrative that on Steam that these bad scores are based upon the performance. I'm not going to say that the performance doesn't play a huge role in it. However, I need you to explain to me this score as it relates to the Xbox gamers. Why are Xbox gamers who Digital Foundry told you that the performance was good? It was a solid 30. And everybody on console doesn't care about 60. I do feel there are a lot of people that are enthused about 60 who were detracted from the game on console, maybe went to PC, but still, the game on console runs, they said, at a good 30, looks good on console, even on the Series S. So performance doesn't play a factor there. Why is the score similar to Steam? And let's not pretend like this game still doesn't have a lot of activity on it outside of Steam. This is the game on Xbox. It is the third most popular game behind Call of Duty and Fortnite on Xbox. That's huge, being that these are Call of Duty is this the free Call of Duty? I don't know. This might be the free Call of Duty, might not be. But these are huge games on Xbox. Nothing has taken these games out for a while. Starfield is number 3. Then you look at in Game Pass. What are the top played games in Game Pass on Xbox? It's still Starfield. When you look at PC, Starfield is in the top, 10 games on PC? That is unheard of. I can't remember the last time a Microsoft game. This is all the games in the Windows Store, including against Solitaire, Candy Crush. It's in the top 10 with them. And when you go to PC Game Pass, it's the number 1 game in PC. So there are a lot of people putting a lot of hours into this game because generally they're being told you have to put a lot of hours in this game to get to the good part. And what are we seeing time after time? Apparently by these scores, that after putting that time in to get to the good part, people are still saying, not the majority, but in large droves, they're still saying, you know what? I'll pass. I'll pass. This is not what I was advertised. This is not what I thought it was going to be. I don't like it, or I can tell there's some good things here. It just isn't for me. I'll pass. And that's where I spoke earlier of maybe next time, instead of overhyping something, you target a specific demo, because if you target a specific demo, this doesn't look like this. This is a lot higher. If you target the demo, this is actually 4. Yeah, you may get less people on it day 1, but systemically, if you target the correct demo, instead of trying to make it seem like it's for everyone, it's the game of the generation, it'll get a lot better reception for what it is, what it actually is. for all intents and there was this one, and I'm gonna show it tomorrow. This one thread where somebody put Starfield is now rated lower on Steam than Fallout 76. Go through that thread and look at the comments. The comments of what I just said. Oh, this is not what I thought it was gonna be. This isn't speaking to me. This ain't. It's all through that thread, and there are 21,000 likes on that specific article. 21,000 likes on that article. So what you have here is a case of a game that I feel isn't horrible. I don't think it's horrible, but I'm not sure that this game reaches the game of the generation status that people said it was going to reach. And just like a predecessor of it, but not by the same company, Cyberpunk 2077 sold that to you. That one, even though that was a quality game, in the state that it was released in, it did not have the game of the generation vibes. So that got lambasted. That got hit harder because of how it was advertised. Starfield and Xbox are no better. If CD Projekt Red can get that work, so can Xbox. So stop with all this. Nobody was like, oh, your CD Projekt, Cyberpunk 2077 is getting review bombed. Nobody was sitting there echoing that crap. It's not happening. And performance is a factor, but trust me, these people that are on Xbox, these people that are going to the Windows Store to play it, they know what to expect. And they're still putting a lot of hours into it. It's not the performance solely. It's the overall, just the state of the game, what it's offering, how it makes you feel, the gameplay loop. To where people are coming away in a general consensus state, not the majority, but as large enough chunk to where the game is falling in around the 70%. That's what it is. Period. It's not being review bombed. Everything that does not fall in line with your subjective likes and dislikes is not a conspiracy. And it's one thing if you want to go talk to these nimrods on Twitter and accuse them of such and point out the fact, it's different there. But to sit there and just try to dismiss actual gamers that don't even be on Twitter, gamers who just legitimately just went and booted up the game, put how they felt authentically and went about their business, shame on you. You're not a gamer. You are not a gamer. I don't care who you are. You're not a gamer. Never in my 35 plus years of gaming have I seen this crap. Like I said, nobody was pulling that crap with Cyberpunk. Everybody was like, there were people, like including myself, that was like, oh, there's a good game here. Yeah, there's flaws, but there's a good game here. But I didn't get on people's case because it did not release to the state it was advertised. It wasn't what it was advertised. So therefore you had a large chunk of people that were not favorable of the game. I didn't dismiss that. Because they played the game, they put time into the game, they gave their honest thoughts. Now, if you're just someone riding the bandwagon because you want to hate, or you're someone that wants to, because you're in love with Xbox, you got an Xbox onesie, and you want to make sure that, and you're wearing it and you're an adult, but you want to make sure that Xbox is always put in the best light, so therefore you want to sit there and score tens and intimidate people that got criticisms. I'm not talking to those people, and because those people equally have not played the game. Some of the biggest people that are talking about this game haven't played it, and a lot of them are out here frauding, as we exposed a couple weeks ago. They're out here frauding, letting the game play, and they're not playing it. And I think there's people doing it on both sides. But I'm here to address the anti-gamer rhetoric. Oh, this game is great. As that one person said, this game is great. And anybody that says otherwise is just, stop it. What makes a game great, which is a subjective term, what makes a game great, it's not any one person or any slither's individual views. It is the general consensus. If the general consensus is one way, that lets you know what the reception is. That lets you know the footprint that the game has, and that lets you know where it fits in the archive of games of all time. When we're talking about a game being great, you don't sit there and say, get to take a bite. Oh, this is fantastic. This everybody will love this. We don't do that. Gamers don't do that. I know there's a lot of yins that are out there that are new to this, or there's a lot of yins I like to call y'all. I hate to say it, we're pulling the scab off. Y'all like the DVD gamers. You know, the DVD movie watchers don't watch anything. They be sitting there watching Tubi all day like my wife. Killing brain cells watching Tubi all day. But they're like the DVD, but they'll watch anything as long as there's a plot, a story, you know what I'm saying, and a twist, they'll watch it. And y'all just enjoy interacting with games. Your litmus or your judgment of games, there's not a lot of gray. I mean, there's not a harsh critical standard to where a lot of people that look at games as technology, as entertainment / art, that's centered around maturation, improvements, increasing the technological offerings, they're a lot more critical. On average, you're not as critical as them. You just love the interaction. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that if you want to interact with it that way. This is an example that I feel that I'm gonna end this and go to the chat. I look at this discussion around video games like a protein shake. You got to bear with me. So I'm an ex. Can I say bodybuilder? No, I'm not an ex, but I'm an ex super weightlifting fitness person. You know what I'm saying? And so I used to live in the gym, drinking creatine and protein and taking andro poppers and all types of crazy stuff, right? And so there was a point in time to where I would stop over at my mother's house and I would work out at a gym close to where she was at. So what I would do is I would park my car over there at her house. I would do my, and then, you know, I would have my protein powder and stuff there with her and come home to grab my stuff and go home, or come to her house to grab my stuff and go home. And she's taking scoops out of my protein powder. And I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? Why are you taking this protein? Y'all like, you know what this stuff is? Oh, she's like, you know what? I have a sweet tooth and you know I love milkshakes, and your protein one day, I just took a scoop out of it and it tastes so good. I like it. And I bought her some protein powder or whatever. And she, you know, she likes it. To this day, she still does that. Drinks protein powder because it reminds her of milkshakes, as long as it tastes good. But that is not the purpose behind the protein. The protein is a nutritional supplement. The target demo for the protein is somebody who's looking for a nutritional supplement with BCAAs, leucine, isolate, all this stuff in it, right? For a particular reason. So if my mom happens to and walk into a store to buy protein powder, and let's just say you got two bodybuilders there and they're arguing, they're like, hold on, that Nitrotech ain't as good as the Phosphagain, because the Nitrotech, you know, the amino acids in the Phosphagain is this, that, and they're arguing over this, right? And my mom hears the argument And she turns to him and says, what does all that matter? The phosphogame tastes good. That's all that. Why don't you guys give this up? And she walks away. Does that make her right? Is her subjectivity now the objective way that bodybuilders should look at protein? No! It's not even designed for her. They're not going to stop her from buying it. If she likes the taste, that's great. They get a couple of extra dollars on top. But the protein has a specific demographic purpose. And of course, those that are for that purpose, that don't just take anything or don't just buy anything, that are critical over what they spend over, there's going to be discussions, debate, reviews over products and services that are supposed to hit a target demo. The same applies with games. I'm sorry, the majority of gamers just aren't happy going pew, 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 and just playing anything. They are objective to the type of stuff that they're going to play. What's in it? Does it speak to me? I like this. How well does it deliver that? So if it doesn't reach those litmuses, they're not happy to just power it on and just look for the things that are good in the game. That's not how it works. Now, if it works for you that way, that's great. But I'm sick and tired of hearing everybody say this whenever a game that they like gets criticized. If a game that I like or something I like gets criticized, I am not that shallow of a person to where I got to feel personally hurt because you don't like what I like. If you played the game, you put time into it, and you have subjective criticisms towards it, it's your right. And if it so happens that if so many people have the same subjective criticisms, they're right. It's when people take their subjectivity and try to make it objective. You're not going to like this. Nobody's going to like this part. Everybody's going to love this. That is not a part of it. I remember a good friend of mine. I'm not going to say his name. No, I'll say it. Shout out to Randolph Thor. Shout out to Randolph Thor. I haven't talked to Rand in a long time since I've gone rogue from Xbox. Rand's been on our show way back in the day, a long time ago. Shout out to him and all of his success with his podcast. Rand one time put out a review for Ghost Recon Breakpoint that I didn't agree with. And it wasn't his subjectivity that I didn't agree with. I didn't agree with how he was casting how certain things would be taken overall and generally. And what ended up happening is me and other people that felt completely different was like, hold on, we're proof that this is not how everybody's going to think about this game, or these are things that everybody is looking for. Now, granted, there were other things in the game like performance and other stuff in the game that gamers did not really care for. Like Ghost Recon Breakpoint, when you got real deep in the game, it felt like there were things missing. So it didn't do that well. You know what I'm saying? Like that Ghost Recon formula after Wildlands, where Wildlands felt like it had so much stuff packed into it, where Ghost Recon Breakpoint was more trying to be like more simulation to being out in the woods or whatever. So it wasn't as dense in activities and stuff like that as Wildlands. People didn't like it, and they thought it was just too soon, for it. And they didn't think that the formula was radically changed enough to warrant the game when it came out, right? And the lack of variety. So, there was a general consensus that for those that played the game, that the game wasn't great. But my thing was talking about certain things objectively was going to have, again, that pile on of people that don't play it, that just want to go with the flow. Now, that's different. If you're sitting there pointing out, well, MM2K, you're saying that the gameplay is repetitive and redundant for you. That may be true, but you're saying that there's no gamer on this planet that'll enjoy the repetitiveness of this. That's not true, because I love it. And I'm just sit there and wave you off. So what? Who cares? It is what I say it is. That's anti-gamer. Well, how is that anti-gamer? Because we understand there are different demographics, different tastes, different likes when it comes to how games are perceived, and what we understand. That's why there's not just 5 reviewers out there in the world. And we understand that there are reviewers that give authentic and great scores that are relative to their demographic. It's just a matter of matching you and finding out which demographic you belong to. So the right reviewer, that if you're in a crunch and you're on the fence about a game, can actually benefit you. Like back in the day, not even that long ago. Well, for many of you, it might be longer. GameFly and Game Informer and was that 7-Up or whoever, GMR, they would have certain people review certain games. The sports enthusiasts would always review the sports games. The RPG enthusiasts would always review the RPG game. The so-and-so would, you know what I'm saying? Because that game was made for that specific demographic. That's who we should be having reviewing that game. Nothing has changed. There are certain games for certain people. Everybody does not walk away from the same game with the same thoughts. It's always going to be, as long as people are not made in a factory, they're organic flesh, there's going to be a mountain range of subjectivity. It's okay. It's all right. It's just a matter of matching you up to those that speak to your demographic. There cannot be a one size fits all to how games are perceived. That cuts into the ingenuity, the innovation. It just creates this, again, this conveyor belt of products that becomes stale and uninspiring. So yeah, anybody that's sitting there trying to downplay the aggregate score from gamers. One thing you want to talk about Metacritic, I don't give a damn. But from actual gamers, stop. Unless you got something conclusive that shows someone broke a hole into the matrix and was able to review bomb Steam, stop it. There is no objective measurement, one size fits all approach to what makes a game good for everybody. There's no way. There's the collection of subjective reviews and thoughts that collectively make an objective landing spot for where the game fits in the history of all games. Period. That's how it works. It's how it always works. How it will always continue to work properly. That's it from your boy. Let me read these comments to get the hell out of here. He says, I told you Paris was compromised, Mars. I know you. No, what it is bro sometimes gets on his emotional soapbox. And he wants to speak matter of fact, like he wants to. I don't know why he wants to wag his finger at you. I hate when people do that. This is what I think. And he's so dismissive. This is what I think, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters to you, and that's fine. But that's all that matters in the conversation. He wants to, if you don't agree with him, he wants to shut down the conversation. I mean, sometimes he gets into these moods, right? So, because I've run into this with him several times. And I've actually said to him on Twitter, I was like, dude, this is why you frustrate people so much, because you're so dismissive. And your subjectivity is objective, but then when people call you out on it and they highlight the holes in your theory, then you want to play the victim. Oh man, why you say this about all I said was, and I'm not talking about those that personally attacked them. Those that personally attacked them, that's beyond the pale. You don't need to do that. I'm talking about those that go after what he said. Or why is everybody so offended? Because you're dismissive. Whenever you're dismissive to people, they're going to respond. And if you're dismissive in a way that has holes in it, oh, they're going to throw it in your face. Oh, it doesn't even matter. That doesn't matter. You're trying to create this doctrine that only you subscribe to on how things should be looked at. No. Now, don't get me wrong. There are when we're talking about genre-defining games or games in general, there are certain standards that we expect, right? Like if you tell us there's 10 levels to a game, but then you only come out with 6. That's a problem. You didn't, your product placement wasn't right. If you're selling us a $70 game, then we're looking at the visual aspects and the movements and things like that and AI and stuff like that should be top notch. That $70 MSRP, I don't care if it's in a subscription or not, that tells you the worth of the title. That's like a stamp on the quality narrative as far as the title is concerned. Not how good it is. You can have some games, there are games that have a lot more quality and stuff put into them, but they're not as fun as the game made by 5 people in the basement, right? Like, people could argue Angry Bird, which I remember playing many days on my way home from work when I worked in town. That game was a lot more fun than a lot of the AAA games that may have come out at that time. So the quality narrative, as far as what you put into it, that's why I said all this stuff is subjective. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good game, but if you're sitting there trying to sell me a $70 game, there are certain aspects, visual, game length, whatever, you know what I mean, that should be standard, right? That's different. But there is no standard for great game. If the game is generally considered great or not depends upon the general consensus. And if your opinion of a game falls out of the general consensus, that's fine. Let the data go through to the publisher and the developer. Let it sink into where maybe they can make a game that you'll still cherish, but has a lot more broader appeal if that was their aim. Or like I said earlier, let them look at the data and concern from that data that, oh, you know what, maybe we overshot the moon in our advertisement. Hold on, what is this? So, we just got to stop that. IOG says, can't stick around, just letting a few people know I'm no longer a cloud gamer. Cut off a platform on a Reddit by a GFN ambassador for highlighting an area in which GFN is underperforming. NVIDIA are telling little white lies to these days. Once bitten, twice shy. Anyway, that's it. I was a better friend than I will be an enemy to cloud gaming, but like Stadia, my talent was a squandered opportunity. Peace, and you deserve more, mate, in my opinion. I appreciate that, IOG. Look, here's my thoughts on cloud gaming. I still love it. Are there flaws? Yeah, there's flaws. There's things that need to be worked out. And cloud gaming did receive what I feel is going to be a short and momentary setback because of Stadia closing down in the way that it did it. But things happen. Can't cry over spilled milk. And I'm saying that not to you, IOG. I'm just saying to myself. Like things got to move on. My issue sometimes is with, but I give them a pass a lot. But my issue sometimes is with the community who or, you know, they're of that ilk that are newer, because there's a lot of people that are on Xbox that are new to gaming, but they've heard all this buzz leading up to the Series X, and, you know, and then they heard the Starfield purchase, and they're like, oh, let me get involved. Like, my sister was one of them. She's like, oh, well, tell me about this game Starfield that's coming. Me and her were having this conversation a year or two ago after Microsoft bought them, and there was so much fervor and so much marketing behind the Xbox brand that it grabbed a lot of people's attention. That being said, there's a lot of newer people, and some of the cloud gamers fit into this, to where, again, their lens, their scope may not be as critical, as demanding as the general populace, but they're like my mother, who's drinking the protein shake. She's into it for the flavor. I mean, she may drink a lot, and she may buy a lot of it, but these people that are working out, that are more in tune in the demographic that the protein shake is for, that study this, that have been talking about the different breakdowns of what's the best protein, what's the best time to drink it, pre-workout, post-workout. You don't just get to walk in a room and tell those people to shut up. What you need to do is understand, okay, now I'm part of a specific demo who's not that critical of games like this. So we need to create a club for ourselves to help spur the things that we're looking for and get out of conversations that are really not for us and often above our heads. Like in that scenario, my mother has no business walking into the fitness store and telling two fitness buffs, oh, who cares about the BCAA? What the hell is that about the CABB? Who cares about that, damn it? Tastes great. I'm out. No, you don't belong in that conversation. Get out of it. And I've been trying to be courteous and saying that, but I can't no longer. It's like Popeye. Took all I can and I can't stand no more. I can't take this no more. It's just crazy. And to see the the cloud community, I give a pass to. I always give them breaks. I always give them passes. People say unfairly, but it is what it is. I can understand why they may run into that paradigm. I understand it with them. It makes sense with them. And that's why I don't even get upset with them. But when it comes to the mainstream gamers, those that have been doing this for a long time, y'all are so messed up mentally when it comes to this stuff, man. It's absurd. Like, you don't dismiss other gamers' subjectivity. Your subjectivity is no important than theirs, especially if their subjectivity, there's more people that think like them than you. Anywho, let's continue on. He says, LG, congratulations, you escaped the scam just in time. Stop it. I knew you'd like that Cold Blood said say. Starfield's sanctimonious metaphysical claptrap. Cold Blood says, I played Fallout 76 and it was one of the worst experiences I ever had in gaming. I disagree. Here's what I will give Fallout 76 over Starfield. The exploration wasn't disjointed, and I could play it with my friends. Like the level of exploration, the going and journeying and doing stuff was there. It's done better in Fallout 76, believe it or not, than in Starfield. It wasn't disjointed. I didn't, warp here, warp there, load screen, this, that. Oh, can I do that? Then these false space battles that are nothing but mini missions. Yeah. That are nothing but, they play more like, I'm ready. They play more like, what's that? Side games. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't, the immersion was there as far as I'm journeying. Holy crap, I came across this part of the map. Oh, what's going on here? This is big building. Let's go through this building. I'll say this because I don't want to ruin everything for the show on Friday. I've done about 4 missions, side missions. And 3 of these side missions, people have said, I've seen people on Twitter say, oh, this is the best side. This is what RPG gaming is all about. This is the RPG gaming, put in its finest, right? And one mission was where you find the ship, and I did this early on, where you find the ship and the zero gravity is messed up in it. So at times you'll be floating, and then at times it'll snap you back where you're walking, and at times you're floating, you're going back and forth. And I thought that was cool. I thought that aspect of it was cool. But the fighting and the enemy AI interaction becomes so repetitive and so mundane and so uninspired that none of that mattered. And then you see these loot items with all these different colors that normally would like make you clap like a baby seal. But then when you look at the stat points and the attributes, they really don't mean nothing. They're just in your stockpile. There might be a rare occasion when they're worth something. And you don't break down elements in this game, which bewilders the hell out of me. At least Fallout 76 you can. You can break down elements, and if it got certain components in it, like the calibrated so and so. Oh, it got that scope on it. Now that I've broken it down and I have that scope in my parts, I'm gonna add it to this other web. You can't do that in Starfield. So because of that, it kind of makes a lot of the stuff, you don't want to get rid of it because it's ranked so high, but it's like, I've had this stuff for almost 19 hours and I have no need for it. So the looting becomes minimized. And then the worst part of it all, which is similar to Fallout 76, is that going through these caves and these places, they may have minimal satisfaction because you're finding stuff, but you're always encumbered and you always got to minimize your inventory. Then the shooting can be cool in certain flashes, but then it feels redundant. But to top it all off, you'll go through a building and it's so unclimactic. What's the word I'm looking for? Unclimactic. Like even in Fallout 76, I get to the final spot and then I'll get a special gun or something like that. Or I'll find a letter that helps, that tethers me to another mission. Something climactic. Or I'll get to an area where there's these crazy bosses there. You know what I'm saying? It's unclimactic. Like I got to the end of the mission that we just did that you're gonna see tomorrow, and there was this robot there, which was new. It was this robot dog that was there, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, does this robot dog, can I control it? Can I use it for something? So I'm trying to avoid it attacking me, and I'm jumping around the room trying to look for some controls. So I want to make sure I don't kill it first, before it could have been something I could use. It had to be like 15 seconds. My NPC killed it. I mean, and it ended up being nothing anyway. And I got some part that I got some parts that don't mean anything. And somebody was on Twitter, this is what RPG is all about. The overhyping is killing this game. This game is not a bad game. I'm just taking some of my stuff for Friday, and then I gotta go. The game is not a horrible game. It's just being overhyped so much to where it's like, oh yeah, objectively, everybody's gonna feel this way. And then when you get a hold of it, when that person gets a hold of it subjectively, they're like, no, this isn't that great. What are y'all talking about? And then that diminishes the feeling because you hyped them up so much, you brought them up so high that the letdown dropped them so low. To where if you didn't overhype it, maybe, and their expectations were still like just wavering, like, well, let me see what this is about. They wouldn't have been dropped so low. And maybe their consensus of what they're experiencing wouldn't have been as bad. It still wouldn't have been as great. I mean, it wouldn't have been super great, but it wouldn't have been as bad. The overhyping is killing this game. And someone appropriately responded to someone saying, yeah, this is what RPGs is all about. Or this is pinnacle or premier RPG. And the person said, That's in every RPG where you run into something and then there's a side mission that may distract. That's common now. What are you talking about? Like when in the beginning of Baldur's Gate, I'm going one way and then there's 4 different things that distracted me on my path to this one thing. It happens in Baldur's Gate is a turn-based strategy game. What are you talking? Stop with the overhyping. It's killing the game. Stop it. Like, it's fine to share your subjective thoughts. I've never attacked anybody that said, oh, I love this part. This is a great part because I got to do this or whatever. But when you sit there and try to talk in these granular, objective, now this is what makes RPG. This is the RPG different from everything else. It's a farce. You're hurting the game more than you're helping it. Stop it. I agree way more with stream reviews than I do too. Stream reviews are the gold standard. The problem is I see some spark of genius in the game, but like there's things there, Cold Blood, this is my opinion. And again, this is just my subjective opinion. I think Bethesda had a vision. Well, let me make things abundantly clear too, because people will sit there and say, oh my God, he actually said that Fallout. I'm not saying Fallout 76 is a better game. I'm currently reviewing this game, Starfield, and I have it ranked higher than Fallout 76. Fallout 76, I ranked it like around a 7.5. I'm not in between there. I have Starfield ranked higher than that. But there are some things like where there's the exploration, being able to play with your friends, which that was never in Starfield's scope that you played with somebody. But the fact that Fallout 76 allows me to finally play a BSG game with my cousin and whatever, that I think that's cool. So that's something that it has in its favor. That and the fact that the exploration isn't like chopped up and broken. You know what I'm saying? Starfield, both of them fail at the climactic resolution when you're going journeying. Fallout does it, Act 76 actually does it better, where when you go through a big building and you finally crack open the safe, you're getting something like good that you're going to use right then and there. Very seldom in playing Starfield, even early on, do I feel that way. It just goes in my ship. It's like it has no purpose. Where with Fallout, I'm getting an immediate purpose. Even though those are the things that Fallout, those are the 2 things that I will give Fallout over Starfield, and those are the things that both of them kind of fail at. Everything else is in Starfield's favor. Clearly. Everything else is clearly in Starfield's favor. So I'm not going to sit there and do that to Starfield. But I can see why. And I'm rating Fallout 76 over the first 2 years of its launch that I'm judging it that way. I haven't played Fallout 76 that much past those 2 years. The game could be severely tweaked up and perked up, and that's why people are all types of crazy mods in it, and that's why it has a higher Steam score. Who knows? But yeah, the first 2 years of the Fallout 76 launch, I'm rating it based off of that. There are a couple of things that Fallout does better. There are some things that they both fell out that are core to the BSG experience, but everything else is in Starfield's favor. What do you say? It says the problem is some spark of genius is there. Yep. After 50 hours of a hell of a lot of quests done, I'm sitting at a 6.5 this time. There are a lot of people that feel that way, Cold Blood. You're not wrong. Your subjectivity is not wrong. And you're trying. Me and you've talked offline, bro. Like I can atone and attest for you trying. And that's the thing that kills me. There are people that are trying to give this game a chance to where they might like it more. I've never seen that attempt so much with this game like I've seen with this one, with a game like I've seen with people are saying, oh, because normally by now people would walk away and just say, nah, this ain't it. But because of all the, you're review bombing, and you're hating on Xbox, and you're anti-green, team green, people are like, okay, let me give it a chance. And they're plugging 20, 30, 40, 50 hours into a game where normally after 10, 15, maybe 20, they're like, I'm done. Stop it. It just isn't as big and wide scope. It doesn't have the big footprint as far as impression that they made it out to be. Period. I can tell you that now. The main story is far the worst part is insulting your intelligence. Just now, Jason Schreier posted that Jim Ryan might... What? Oh, shoot. Jim Ryan might step down. Oh, that's crazy. Uh-oh. All right, we got to check that out. I got to get out of here. Got a business meeting to go to. Can't be late to it. With that said, thank you, everybody. I had to just put this out here. It was driving me crazy. Till next time, have a wonderful, wonderful gaming day. Peace.